What's going on, everybody?
Yeah, boy.
You already know what it is. We got Stephen and Alec back for episode 18 of podcast Elrond.
You're darn tootin'.
Proudly having that podcast Elrond name.
Yes, sir. I know things have changed for the Elrond Network themselves, and they're now referred to as MultiversX. But we're ponying up on that podcast Elrond name, and Stephen and I have discussed maybe we need a rebrand or not. I don't know, but that's something him and I are talking about. We're not sure what to do, but as you know, podcast Elrond is still the same. We still out here. We still the same dudes reporting on the same blockchain.
Yes, sir. I feel like I'm like, selecting the college that I'm going to, like put on the different hats or whatever. Like, I choose MultiversX,
That is a very trucker-ish hat. I do enjoy that.
Well, I have it tipped forward immensely.
Yes.
We got a bunch of gift bags in Paris. I think there were a few different things that were given, whether you were, depending on your ticket tier, but I think everybody got a hat, everybody got a shirt, and I'm not sure, but yeah, we got these cool coffee mugs with the Rebrand on there. So definitely pretty cool. And we've talked very slightly about rebranding podcast Elrond, but I feel like podcast Elrond, at least for the foreseeable future, I'm kind of waiting for the dust to settle to see maybe how other people in the space respond. But for now, I think that the OG Elrond name is kind of, it's a cool place to be. If you're here now, you kind of know it. But I don't know. I think eventually maybe we will have to consider a rebrand of the podcast Elrond official name.
Yeah, all in the future, though. We'll worry about that later. Well, Stephen, you mentioned X Day. Welcome back, by the way, from Paris. You and I have spoken before this podcast, and it sounded like you had a really good time, dude. Did you want to discuss that now or maybe at a later time?
Yeah. I can cover it now, and I'm sure we'll probably pick up some more snippets kind of throughout. But yeah, I mean, this was one of my first times out of the country, my first time to Europe. So there's definitely some improvements that I would make for the next time. Altogether, I was like pretty sleep deprived and jet lagged, even though I made some efforts to try to combat that. But yeah, man, like it was like just so much fun. There was like a great moment of, it was just like surreal seeing some people in real life that for the most part, effectively like, you just see like either their profile picture or like, if you're interviewing them, like, we have our podcast here. It's like, oh shoot, you have a bottom half, like, there's more to you. So yeah, it was freaking incredible. I want to give a shout out to, Edward from ZoidPay. I was chit-chatting with some people, and then I got like a tap on my back, and I was like, okay, what the heck? Like, it didn't even register, but it's like, who the heck could that be? And just turning around and seeing Edward was a whole lot of fun. But yeah, dude, like there's a whole lot that I could say about it. So I guess, yeah, I do have some more that I will say about it, as well as some interviews and chats that I had with people while I was there. Got some cool B-roll footage just to kind of like, put people in the space and get a sense of, what was it like to be there and everything. And it was you really did have to be there for sure. But I'm hoping that kind of from the internet, everybody was able to kind of like at least like feel a sense of camaraderie. And even if they weren't able to make it or even watch the live stream online, they still felt a part of the whole X Day conference, which, yeah, there was so much to unpack. It was a big blur. But yeah, dude, X Day was an absolute blast. Got to shake hands with lots of new friends, but also got to connect with like, real people who I just knew online through Twitter and stuff like that. Got countless compliments about podcast Elrond, and dude, got several shout outs to say hello to Alec, and they kind of sent their love and appreciation towards you as well. So yeah, dude, it was great to be there, and I had the podcast Elrond sweatshirt on. I got Drifters gave me this hoodie, so shout out to Arno and the whole crew over there at Drifters doing their thing. But yeah, dude, it was so much fun, and I'll just leave it at that and share the rest on the video that I put out. Whenever that might be, still letting the dust settle a little bit.
Well, it sounds like X Day was quite the time, man. And it's amazing that you got to, speak to some of the people that we've interviewed on this podcast, especially Nuno and Edward. Like, those they came across as really cool people, and from our conversations, it sounds like they live up to it. The Elrond team, X Day, of course, was this thing that they designed in order to drop some major freaking news, the rebrand, and there's some other things that we're going to be going into later in this podcast. But we couldn't be more excited, and there's a lot of things changing, and we're going to do our best to keep you guys up to date.
Yeah. So just bringing it back to the new organization structure, we're still trying to kind of keep the value of these videos on point. So we've got some topics, of course, today, but something that I'm pretty excited about, obviously, aside from everything that was discussed and announced at X Day, was, all right, we know what's coming. We have this rebrand. We have these 10 different products, each beginning with an X. I won't go through them now because it's super redundant, but Benjamin in a interview kind of after X Day shared, and this is on YouTube, so maybe I'll share the link, but yeah, he's basically saying how each of these products will kind of each get their specific updates, upgrades as the weeks kind of progress. Not to talk about the topics, but I will be talking about the xExchange, and we've already started to see some movement on that, which is really great to see for a lot of reasons. Just the whole 1 to 2 weeks meme. Hopefully that whole meme can kind of die with this awakening of xExchange. But yeah, dude, it's one thing to know what's coming, and I think that for the next several episodes, well into halfway, already like looking at halfway through like 2023, like you and I will probably have continual topics to cover, specifically continually pointing back to this was first brought up at X Day, and now it's coming to life, and this is what it means, and so forth. So I'm super duper stoked. I do want a chance to kind of share a little bit about this MultiversX rebrand, because it is new, and depending on how much you've read and watched about it, it may catch you off guard. Maybe there's some people out there who are still just kind of shaking their heads and maybe scoffing. Just the idea of a rebrand is difficult to implement no matter when or how. But being at X Day helped, but it still took some dust to settle. But yeah, dude, I'm stoked about it, and I'm excited to get more into the kind of the topics that we're bringing to dive into a few of these items that were announced at X Day.
Yeah, there really is an abundance of projects coming to the formerly known as Elrond ecosystem, now the MultiversX ecosystem. So yeah, man, there's definitely going to be a lot for us to cover. And speaking of things that we're going to cover today, I'm going to be going ahead and covering my major topic today is going to be xMoney. That includes X Fiat and X Crypto. And of course, I'll go into later what xMoney used to be and what it is currently. So that's going to be a really cool thing to present on. And my minor topic today, to you people in the US, it might not seem minor. It's the Coinbase move that EGLD is going to be coming to the Coinbase market, which we all know the Coinbase effect. We're going to see if that's still in play. I don't know. There's a lot of things to unpack here. We have an exciting podcast. What do you have to present for us today, Stephen?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So the major topic that I'm going to bring is going to be xExchange, formerly known as MyRxchange. And there's quite a bit to unpack there. Kind of mostly at this point, we have kind of the upgraded MEX 2.0 economics model that I want to kind of explain the key points, because the xExchange, the entire MyRDEX interface will be changed. There's going to be this gamification element added to the mix. And then that brings me into the minor topic, which also has a little bit to do with gamification. But as we all know, the MyR application for our smartphones is now called the xPortal. So xPortal is what I'm bringing to talk about for the minor topic, which, yeah, It's pretty awesome. You know, we have these major topics and minor topics, but like each of these topics like really do deserve to be, you know, full on major topics, you know, like receiving a chunk of spotlight. But again, I mean, I'm sure we'll have more opportunities to share even more about each of these little things as the products actually, you know, the rubber hits the road. We actually have them to interact with and use. But yeah, dude, so I'll be doing the xExchange and xPortal.
Looking forward to it, man. I think I think the people are going to hopefully learn a lot from all this, because there really is a lot to unpack from the new rebranding and what they're trying to do here. And we're here to slap that information into your guys' head and
We'll slap it right in.
yeah, open up that portal, plug it on in, and we're excited for today's podcast for sure, man.
Yes, sir. I'm curious what, before maybe we kind of get into our normal progression, I talked a little bit about X Day, but did you have a chance to catch much of the live stream? Did you watch any of it back? You know, I like I said, I want to talk some about, you know, obviously the X Day, because that's the most important event that was covered last time we spoke. But yeah, what did you have time to watch it, and what were some of your impressions? Yeah, share with everybody what kind of your perspective was, and how you're kind of interacting with the changes, and what you kind of see through this rebrand, Alec.
I haven't had time to watch any of the live streams myself, but I have been keeping up with the news as it was dropping at X Day. The way I feel about it, I think maybe a rebranding was necessary. I don't know the full details. Maybe there was a cease and desist from the Tolkien estate, but I know that, you know, Elrond, the name itself, was borrowed from the Lord of the Rings, and Maiar, the name itself, was borrowed from, again, the Lord of the Rings. So I can see as to why maybe they're taking some of these steps in order to do a rebranding of the Elrond Network. And with the Coinbase news coming out, I'll go into it a little bit later, but maybe this was also a strategic move, speaking in marketing terms, to appeal to a broader audience. You know, multiverse is a pretty hot topic or a hot term right now, and I can definitely see why they moved in this direction. You know, the same thing that they did with inspire.art, finding those keywords and things that can really easily spread like wildfire whenever that time comes.
Yeah. That's a great aspect. I didn't think about that at all, that this could have something to do with the specific expansion of MultiversX into the United States. So yeah, I'm super excited to hear more about what you've got to share, referring to the Coinbase and Elrond, or MultiversX stepping into the United States.
But as far as X Day goes, obviously they dropped some very big news across the whole conference. There are a couple of things that I think maybe were teased and maybe didn't happen. I'm not super positive about that, but when you and I spoke last time, I've still been wondering what happened to Yuga Labs. I don't know if Yuga Labs was actually there or if they spoke, but I never saw anything about it. So that was interesting. But other than that, they're changing the freaking game. It comes down to that. They're revamping Elrond is what I see. They see a need to start appealing to a broader audience, and I think they are making those moves. And that's really what I gain from it, is it's time to start really pushing. And this is I'm pretty sure the MultiverseX team starting to do that.
Yeah, it was honestly, it was pretty funny. You know, like I mentioned before, I was a little bit sleep deprived and jet lagged, and it was just a lot going on. I'm at, you know, what, this huge venue, and this is, you know, the first conference, so there's just so much going on. And I would be curious, like, you know, if I could go back in time with a little knowledge that I have now, and rewatch the whole X Day experience, if I could have kind of just processed through all of it, kind of much more real time. Like, it literally felt like I was kind of like lagging through the entire experience, and that I think had to do with a little bit with, we only got the agenda of the speakers and the times, just a few days before the the conference. And once we had that, you felt a little bit better. But altogether, I think everybody's pretty well aware that when it came to what X Day was going to bring, we didn't really know what it was. It was like shrouded in mystery and all that stuff. Which some people are kind of about that. Some people are just like, just be real. Like, we don't need, like emojis and people's names on Twitter to like give us hints of like dates and stuff like that.
We don't need Dune quotes.
Yeah. It's just this idea of trying to be a leader and leading the space altogether. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, I guess what's done is done. But I will say that the Yuga Labs, unfortunately, I was disappointed. She was sick. She was in Paris and she was supposed to be on this panel. And we all saw it on the agenda, and I was excited for this discussion before the fact, as many were. And somebody just kind of stepped on stage and they just kind of like dropped it very casually. Like, yeah, unfortunately, she's not going to be able to make it. She's not feeling well. And it was just like, damn, like that a bit of a letdown, just to see and hear from her. Herman, which is the CEO of Improbable, he kind of spoke on her behalf, but obviously Herman had a lot of really cool stuff to say, and there's, I think, a lot in the books coming in December with regard to what is what is MultiversX doing with the metaverse? What are they building? Because I think in the next episode of podcast Elrond, I do want to cover more of the metaverse. So I would encourage you, Alec. Maybe I will send you some links of some of the keynotes that I think are really important to watch. Because over 3 days there were some topics that really resonated with me, resonated with the audience, and others were much more technical, or maybe just like appealed to a different audience. But it was pretty crazy. I mean, like, we essentially got answers to, win MEX 2.0 within, it felt like the very first thing, essentially. Like whenever Benjamin got on stage and announced the rebrand to MultiversX and talked about this idea of the metaverse has been misunderstood and we need to position it correctly as a blending of both the physical realm and the digital realm, which I'll talk more about because that has to do with what xPortal is. But it was just kind of like we didn't know what to expect going into it, and then they just threw this huge presentation of the DEX 2.0 model. And then I guess before that, Benjamin told us about the rebrand to MultiversX. And it was just, like I said, it was like a little bit of a lag. It was like, okay, like, so this is what's happening. Like, in the moment, it didn't seem like this big unveil for me, like, and there's a big rebrand, and like there's this like uproar and like applause. Like, it seemed like everybody was like so unsure, so uncertain about really what X Day was going to be, that it's like whenever you're telling a story or you're telling a joke, it's like where's the punchline, and depending on how that's delivered, the punchline kind of hits, or there's kind of like some lag. So I mean, I just want to share that because I thought it was just altogether was comical. It was an absolute blast. But yeah, I like what you had to say about the perspective of the team, and yeah, I think we'll continue to get a little bit more into that throughout the episode. But yeah, let's move on, kind of moving away directly from the MultiversX rebrand and move into kind of more of the meat of today's episode. Because yeah, like we've already mentioned, we've got some cool stuff to get into. So with that being said, we'll kind of jump back in, and I'm asking you, Alec, even though I think I understand kind of where your portfolio might be at. But if you don't mind telling the people where your money is, how you're kind of using the DEX, And I might wrap around and ask this question again after the conversation so that I can hear whether or not you plan changes once xExchange drops and the whole locked MEX takes on this whole energy aspect. So I'm not sure how much you know about that. So feel free to even include some of that dialogue right now. But yeah, remind everybody kind of where you're at, where your money is. And, this is a high level portfolio. So this could include some of your own personal stuff like real estate, traditional methods, and then also, of course, crypto and MultiversX. So yeah, give us a rundown.
All right, man. So currently I haven't done much to my MultiversX portfolio. I feel as though markets are in a way where I don't want to make moves right now. So I'm kind of just sitting. I'm sitting on things, and in terms of the crypto market, I haven't really done much. When it comes to MEX 2.0 or locked MEX version 2, I believe is what they're calling it. I'm not sure how I'm going to approach that yet. I like the idea of energy, and I like the idea of locking your rewards for a certain amount of energy and also be able to get other benefits from that. But also, I'm hesitant to do so, maybe because I don't understand the system itself all the way yet. Some of those fees seemed really high when it came to unlocking things. Like, 50% of your bag gone, high kind of fees. And so like those kind of things, they maybe strike a little bit of fear in me, not to the fees, but fear in me to what is Alec gonna do? And like a year from now, 2 years from now, am I willing to kind of take that slash, or am I really willing to seriously lock up my funds? That's seriously locking things up if you're gonna be hit with a 50% fee. No one wants 50% of their bag gone. That's quite the incentive to not get rid of your locked MEX. Also, I've been in since the MultiversX started. So
we forgot to shout it out. The podcast Elrond is officially 1 year old. So
one MFing year, mofros. Can you believe that shit?
Yes, sir. We've been here for a freaking year, folks.
Damn right, dude. It's pretty crazy. 1 year more. Well, no, just kidding. Many years more. But I'm in a position to where my locked MEX might, next. In 2023, a lot of my locked MEX is unlocked. A lot of my locked MEX is completely liquid if I wanted it to be, without fees. And so that's the kind of balance I'm trying to juggle here. But I also recognize governance is starting to happen. Governance is starting to take place, and I don't need to get too much into the locked MEX version 2.
No, that's all. Yeah, that's great.
That is something that I also have to weigh in. How much of a say do I want in the ecosystem? How much of a say do I want to keep? Because if I were to unlock anything, I lose some of my say. So those are the kind of things I'm playing with. But in terms of other portfolio stuff that I'm doing, so me and my wife, we're continuing to save for another house. And actually, I've been thinking about moving our money from our traditional savings account to high yield savings, which is not high yield. It's like 3% interest, but it's better than just having my money sit there.
For sure.
But I'm also not willing to use that real estate money and put it into riskier assets. That's money I need. Cash is king right now when it comes to that. So I'm going to try to continue to do so there. And a couple of months ago, I actually reallocating is not the word. I rebalanced my funds in my 401k, which has been working out pretty nicely, actually.
What did that look like?
It looked like me taking my stuff out of growth tech stocks and repositioning it into more energy and health and focused stocks, which has been my saving grace. A lot of people are talking about their portfolio being down. I'm slightly up. It's nothing great, but nice, I'm not bleeding when a lot of people are bleeding. So I will take that effing win, run with it, and be super happy about that, man. That's really it, I think, for my portfolio updates and allocations. What about you, Stephen? Or do you have any questions for me?
Yeah. I mean, do you have any like words of advice or recommendations, like when it comes to your stream of information? Where do you, as you said, you feel like you've preserved your money, you're not bleeding heavily. I mean, relative to other people, it sounds like you're doing pretty well, and you were happy about that. So yeah, what do you find are quality places for you to kind of like, get your research and build your kind of thesis that directs your rebalancing and where your traditional portfolios reside?
So really, a lot of it came to or comes from my day trading days when the people I was day trading with, they were very, 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 very good. And I can say they knew the market pretty well, and they knew which way things would swing, even based off of Jerome Powell, chairman of the Federal Reserve, and he has talks every now and again. So like, even they paid attention to those type of things, and I still follow them on Instagram. And it really comes down to, these are the fundamentals of the market. When things get into bear markets, things tend to swing, or when things start to become like this, things tend to swing to more stocks that have had continued growth throughout the year. They're proven stocks. They're things that you would see people like Warren Buffett getting into, because they are stocks that year over year, you're usually safe. You know what I mean? So when my advice is, when it comes to messing with the traditional market, try not to swim against the stream, swim with it. When things start to turn like this, look more towards value stocks, not growth stocks. Growth stocks are the ones that usually carry a little bit more volatility. I mean, just look at Meta. Just look at any of these tech stocks that were really fucking killing it during the pandemic. I mean, insanity in their gains, and now some of them aren't even worth a fraction of what they used to be worth. So that's what I have to say. So when it comes to euphoria in the market, play with it. But when things start to look like this, maybe start to go back to those value stocks.
That's a great word, and I think especially those growth stocks that performed so well kind of in the wake of the pandemic. I mean, it's funny because I think those stocks, things that come to mind, like you mentioned Meta, but also I think Tesla would fall into that category. And those, I think, naturally speaking, are just naturally a bit more speculative, which, probably contributes to their volatility. But yeah, I mean, it's just so interesting how, putting your money into these value stocks, has been reliable. And all these years later, it sounds like it's been a more favorable spot to situate your money. So, it's just funny how just this idea of perhaps people using their money from the government, the stimulus checks is more what I'm referring to. It's like, people got checks in the mail, and it's like, oh, shoot, like, where am I going to put my money? And, it's like growth stocks are essentially like, it sounds like they're just like, the most volatile and risky. But, as they say, high risk, high reward. It's tough because obviously there are still people who are madly bullish on some of those growth stocks, like Tesla and even Meta, as far as it's gone down. It's like, well, like, it's a gamble because, these are big companies, and, not to push on to the next element, but as we saw, with FTX, like, you're never really too big to fail. Obviously, it doesn't really help your case whenever you're acting fraudulently. Yeah, we can get into that in a moment, because I know, Alec, you have a bit to share about the FTX.
Yeah. Did you want to share with us any different portfolio allocations you might have, Stephen?
Yeah. It's honestly, man, it's really challenging. It's really tricky right now because, just rewinding to a year ago when we first started earning locked MEX or MEX, and then in January and February, different third-party applications came out that allowed people to trade their locked MEX for eGold, and I took advantage of those third parties with the sole intention of, I'm going to sell locked MEX for eGold now, because I felt as though there was a decent amount of time for this asset to kind of mature, and for this first-class citizenship to really truly be delivered. And this was all just based off of reading, and truthfully, this is based off of the conversations we shared both on camera and off camera. And then even relating to either the second or the third episode of podcast Elrond, whenever I went fully tilted into the MEX token, swapped all of my EGLD for MEX, and I was all of my farms were earning locked MEX. Like, so I mean, the emphasis is that I've been bullish on the Maillard DEX token since it came out, but I took a gamble assuming that it would take some time for this first class citizenship to truly be delivered. And yeah, so I would say that the biggest portfolio change that I have made since we last spoke was certainly buying back locked MEX. So I think before X Day, I maybe bought a little bit here and there and just, tried to find a happy place, balancing how much locked MEX do I have staking in meta bonding, and then how much liquidity do I have in meta staking for the most part. Meta staking liquidity provider token, earning income from every trade on the DEX, from the fees, and then earning staking rewards of the same token, and then of course earning the locked MEX token from being a liquidity provider. So I sold and rebalanced, same as you, rebalanced my portfolio. But what that looked like for me was taking a risk, biting the bullet a little bit, but all I really did was, take the liquidity, as you said, cash is king. All I really did was kind of like take that liquidity that I had and move it back into locked MEX. Which, it is difficult to do because obviously that lowered my exposure to tokens and companies that I am very bullish on. Specifically, I think the bulk of that rebalancing did come from my UTK liquidity. But I mean, from a standpoint of valuation and from a standpoint of potential growth, at this point, I'm really trying to figure out, what is the proper balance of locked MEX to have and what is the proper balance of liquidity to have? Because as, we'll probably get into when I'm talking about the new model, locked MEX is a token that will benefit liquidity providers. It will give you passive income, but it will also give you boosted meta bonding, boosted meta staking, boosted farms and stuff like that. So it's clear that if you were to go 100% into locked MEX, it's just like, well, hopefully at that point, the passive income you're earning through meta bonding and locked MEX emissions is providing what you deem to be kind of sufficient passive income. But at that point, if you went 100% in, then of course you wouldn't have any liquidity. Like you wouldn't be able to create these affirming actions on the DEX, which are, providing liquidity. So Locked MEX Exchange, among others, have announced over the past couple days that they will be shutting down shop. As if you don't know already, Locked MEX, Alec, you mentioned it a little bit already, but yes, Locked MEX will in fact be non-transferable finitely. It will be bound to the account, and it won't be able to be swapped on these third-party exchanges. And I totally relate with this kind of like unsettled feeling it sounded like you were conveying earlier, because it's just like, we heard about it at X Day. We learned a little bit more along the way. And then finally, 2 days ago, we had the formal blog post, and then the 24-page not white paper, but documentation to cover this new model, which I've read top to bottom. And I have purchased back every locked MEX that I ever sold. In addition to that, I bought back locked MEX to the extent that I would have owned had I never sold my locked MEX, staked it in the MEX pool, and earned that interest. So not only did I buy all of the locked MEX back, but I also bought back the additional interest that I technically kind of should have had if I didn't sell out of locked MEX at all. So on Sunday, so in about 48 hours, those locked MEX exchanges will shut down, and I have a small chunk of unbound UTK that will become unlockable just in the nick of time before those locked MEX exchanges shut down. But then I also have a little bit of locked MEX that I unbound from meta bonding, because it's like, dang, like, you know, like as soon as this implements, the locked MEX will only be locked MEX. And as you referred to earlier, if you want to trade that for eGold, you know, once these changes are implemented, you must, you know, kind of succumb to the speeding the discharge or the discharging fee. So there's a much bigger kind of feeling of pressure on me, trying to figure out what the balance is, because right now, I mean, like looking at my liquidity, I really bled myself really low with liquidity because I probably aped into a few NFTs a little bit too much, which I guess, I mean, naturally, you know, that will just kind of be my strategy, is that I've got my locked MEX boosting and providing passive income, boosting the allocation of liquidity that I still have within meta staking. But ideally, hopefully, as time progresses, the NFTs that I did invest in, I'm not necessarily an NFT seller. You know, I'm an investor, and if I see an opportunity to, you know, sell and make profits that I'm happy with, then of course those will go straight back into the DEX to kind of further bolster the liquidity. So I sold all my locked MEX, used the liquidity irresponsibly a little bit buying NFTs, and so now it's like, all right, throw it back into locked MEX. Now that we have the you know, the first class citizenship and the energy module kind of understood, I'm really excited about that. But again, to wrap up here, there are still unknowns. We don't know exactly what it will look like. But yeah, I cut myself short because of course we're going to get into this a little bit more, and the episode is already carrying on well into time, so I want to make sure that we use our time efficiently.
Thanks for sharing that with us, Stephen. I know you mentioned FTX a little bit beforehand, and I think that's something that it kind of needs to be covered. I just want to give you guys a brief overview of what happened with FTX, because it's a mess, I'll tell you that much. So here's a quick breakdown of how this all went through. So on November 2nd, CoinDesk publishes a report that revealed Alameda Research, a sister company to FTX, had a balance sheet full of FTT. All right, let's think about that a little bit. If your sister research company has most of their, you know, worth in your coin that you created, it really isn't much worth there. I mean, it's literally an assload of their worth was based on FTT. And then come November 6th, Changpeng Zhao, the founder of Binance, said the cryptocurrency exchange would offload the remaining of its FTX tokens due to recent revelations that have came to light. And then the price starts to drop because there's a bank run on FTX. Then come November 8th, Binance agrees to acquire FTX. And then the day afterwards, November 9th, they're like, yeah, we're not taking this over due to some other things that have come to light, such as what could be considered criminal activity or fraudulent behavior. And then November 11th, FTX files for bankruptcy, and CEO, founder, Sam Bankman-Fried, however you want to say it, resigns. On that same day, reports emerged that FTX transferred $10 billion, 10 billion, to Alameda, its sister company, sparking concern about what source of access top leaders had to the company's finances. And then on November 13th, news organizations began reporting that much of the money transferred out of FTX in its final hours have disappeared. And then on November 14th, not too long ago, regulators began looking into FTX for criminal liabilities. Let's unpack that a little bit. So SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, I don't know, has been using customer funds to give loans to its sister company, Alameda, which a lot of the... and I don't know if that was to inflate the worth of Alameda or what, but it has led to the downfall of one of the biggest centralized crypto exchanges in the world. this is, it's left some big wakes in the crypto sphere, and people aren't really sure how to proceed with FTX, and they're not really sure if there's even going to be any criminal charges to this man who currently lives in the Bahamas. So it's all just kind of a shit show right now, and we'll see what happens, going forward. So that's really all I have for you guys on that. Yeah, it really does suck to see, and it sucks for, just a word of advice out there. Stephen and I are involved in non-custodial wallets. That's what the Myar app was, and now currently, or what is now going to be known as the xPortal app. That's what it is. Your money is your money. Your keys are your keys, and that's why we are proponents of this, and you don't see us holding at least none of my money are on centralized exchanges except for, my bank. I'm keeping my shit safe, and to all of you out there who currently have your coins sitting on a centralized exchange, this can happen at any moment. It really can. So just think about where you have your money sitting, and think if that's really the safest place for it to be.
Yeah, that was a big bummer to see all of that kind of start to unfold. It was like, yeah, just one more chapter to this, what's becoming a chapter book of a bear market. And some people are referring to these events as black swan events, which is like another word for something that was pretty much like completely unforeseeable. And essentially, it's like the same idea as like a rug pull, not formally, but just like the idea of getting a rug pulled out from under you. We saw it with Celsius. We saw the Luna collapse, which was a different aspect, but still spoke to the idea of transparency. And then since then, Crypto.com has been under scrutiny, and then BlockFi, it sounds like, for a little bit has been under pressure for insolvency. Some people said maybe that was not the case. I'm not entirely sure with regard to that. And it's like I don't really have a lot to really like say about it. I mean, thankfully I was not impacted. Alec, I don't believe you were impacted by it, which of course is great. My apologies or condolences go out to anybody who did lose funds in any of these unforeseeable events of this bear market. It's funny because whenever we're talking about the bull market as a permabull, I'm always like, yo, for real, like this time is different. I promise. Like like this is the time that we really get adoption, and we start to see real usage, and it's like you really kind of forget that all right, if this truly is different on the upside, then I mean, it's definitely going to be different on the downside. And whenever it comes to me trying to feel the sentiment of the market, it's like, well, shit, like price can go sideways for 2 months as it did. And, the permabull in all of us, or the permabull in me, or just the bull to begin with, like, it grows and it grows kind of. And it's like, you get closer. It's like, why aren't we going down in price? Like maybe we actually have bottomed. And, it's just, messed up, because for me, I view things in such, kind of like this equilibrium price standpoint of economics of there are buyers and there are sellers and there's supply and there's demand, and together we each kind of agree on prices. And then randomly, things like FTX happen, and it's like, damn, like that was really hiding in the shadows for all of this time. And I spent a great deal of time last week kind of popping in and out of different live spaces on Twitter, and heard a lot of, good information, a lot of good topics, not so much topics, but just good conversation about, both what happened, like really great media coverage, unbiased media coverage coming from Twitter. I mean, so big props to just Twitter being a useful tool from that perspective. But then, just like people kind of, being broken records, talking about, what led to the FTX collapse and Sam Bankman-Fried misusing funds and being fraudulent, and how he spoke and shared his vision for the future. And yeah, it's really messed up, and there was a lot of anger in the markets. But I will say, just as a word of kind of like hope, as Alec, you already kind of alluded to, it's like, well, shoot, like, I mean, I'm so uninvolved and kind of uninterested in, whether it be Celsius or FTX. It's like, yeah, like, I mean, I found ERD Elrond back in a couple years ago, and it's been a sufficient store of value, and it kind of checks all those boxes that I believe Satoshi Nakamoto initially envisioned whenever he built Bitcoin, this peer-to-peer electronic money, allowing people to transact without a financial intermediary. And it sucks because for now, the onboarding process does require, on-ramps. And it's just, man, it's become super evident how important it is to read the fine print and make sure you understand what you're getting into, but more specifically, like, yeah, just like self custody, not your keys, not your funds. It's it's just crazy to see these announcements. It's like, oh, like X or whatever centralized exchange is has turned off withdrawals, and it's like, damn, like that's it, like that's like, if you're stuck, you're stuck. I mean, but it is funny because in the scope of locked MEX, that the MyRDEX or xExchange is not a centralized exchange. It's DeFi, so we still own all of the funds, but there is still this kind of inherent aspect of uncertainty whenever we do kind of commit to holding our funds somewhere or even locking our funds with locked MEX. But yeah. Not to jump back to locked MEX or whatever. But yeah, dude, it was pretty crazy what happened with FTX. Nobody saw it, and it really, really sucks to happen. I think that to some degree it did set the industry back. But at this point, I mean, I hate to say it, but the silver lining is, bear markets are tough, and they catch you by surprise, and they find the bad root or roots in the metaphorical garden, and you'll be surprised how close they hit to home. I mean, like, I have a little bit of money on some centralized applications, and we know whenever, and then you didn't even, I don't know if maybe I missed it, but the FTX application got hacked, and like random wallets were being drained. So not only, so they're getting looked into heavily. It's basically sounds like FTX obviously was insolvent, shit hit the fan. They turned off withdrawals, and I still need to look into it because, I started seeing people like, don't log into the FTX, don't upload or don't update it on the app store or anything. Like, it's been breached, malware, etc. And at that point, I was like, fuck, like the bear market's getting to me. I was tweaking a little bit, getting flashbacks to whenever there was the smart contract exploit that we experienced, and I didn't make any actions. And it was kind of like looking back to 2018, whenever there was like this final capitulation. It's like that fear continues to run through. And at that point, it's like, well, I don't want to sell the bottom again. So like, I'm just going to hold and trust that this is just, the nature of the bear market. But yeah, FTX sent huge ripples through the ecosystem. And I think at this point, it's up to all of us to make sure that history is rewritten, as this is an opportunity to move towards the proper way to do things, and for disgusting centralization such as FTX to get weeded out. And man, hopefully people don't go back and continue to expose themselves to that such high degree of risk.
Yeah, it really just boils down to not your keys, not your coins. So I really hope whoever was, caught in the wave, you guys are doing okay. You're still out there floating. And if you are still looking for, a crypto space to get into, we're ready for you right over here in the MultiversX ecosystem, baby.
Yeah. I mean, so normally at this point we would kind of get into maybe some Elrond ecosystem at a glance, but kind of closing the conversation over larger market things. I think we've already kind of discussed Elrond ecosystem, so soon we can get into those major topics. But as far as your perspective on the high-level traditional markets, any things you've noticed, any senses that you're getting in terms of where we're going from a standpoint of inflation or a recession of any sorts, any progress that you're seeing?
Just markets are weird right now, dude. I was listening the other day, and mortgage applications are back up. Like, people are still trying to get a house. Even like when things started to dip back below 7%, people were like, all right, time to buy homes again. Like, it's pretty crazy, dude. So we're really like in this weird balance here where, they say inflation is high, but people aren't calling it a recession yet because there's still plenty of consumer activity. And so the Feds continue to tighten the belt, and I fully expect them here in the next couple of months to continue to tighten the belt even tighter, because we're not seeing the decrease in economic activity that we need to see in order to combat this inflation.
Yeah. It's really crazy. And, in light of what happened with FTX, and this is kind of some of those kind of scary sensations that I had, it's like, dude, I mean, like, okay, so if anything, what happened with FTX, we were able to kind of catch it and track it. And that's kind of a proof of concept of the value of the blockchain. It's immutable, transparent. But just like this idea of like, holy cow, like, this fraud happened, we'll say from, the Web 2 traditional kind of players. And it's like, yo, like, you think this one-off, experience with FTX was, exposed fraud? Imagine all the fraud that exists right now behind closed doors, behind banks, behind Wall Street, dude. So it's just like, I mean, yeah, it's weird. I agree with you. Markets are uncertain, and it's like nobody really kind of knows what's happening. And, maybe it's just, relating it to something that we experience, but it's like, man, markets altogether just feel like everybody's waiting for the world to collapse, and it's not collapsing. So it's like, oh, maybe we're actually going to have, this relief rally. And it's like, shoot, man, hopefully now is not the time for like, the global fabric to just get fucking torn into shreds and like crazy. Like, just imagine, this is so speculative, but just like imagine if there were bank runs in the real life, like FTX went kaput in moments because, CZ just poked a hole. He saw that they were fraudulent to, whatever degree. He poked a hole in it and then it went kaput. It's like, holy shit, man. Like, I'm not saying this to sell cryptocurrency. Rather, I'm into cryptocurrency because of this reason. It's like, man, in a world where there is anything like a bank run or anything like, we saw in 2008, I truly do feel most confident with my ownership in cryptocurrency on the blockchain, backed up over time, validated by a globe of multiple validators. Like, yes, in that stance, sure, the US dollar might still kaput, but at least I still freaking own those assets. And, I don't have to, get in line at Bank of America along with 50,000 people down the block, waiting for our funds because it's a bank run. Like, it's so dystopian. But yeah, man, the whole FTX collapse really just made me think about like, holy cow, like imagine how much fraud exists right as we speak. And dude, I mean, like, some people said that what CZ did was malicious with, popping that FTX bubble. I don't see it that way, but if something similar was to happen in the real world, like balance sheets being compared by huge fund managers, they see somebody as insolvent or something, just like The Big Short, it's like, and then, the dominoes start to fall. It's like, yo, back up and don't get hit by the splash, whatever you want to call it. But yeah. That's a good point about the uncertainty of the markets and the kind of the disagreement the market is having with the overall economic activity. Definitely seems like we are waiting for some sort of clarity there.
Yeah, there has yet to be clarity, and I think we're all definitely still waiting for it, Stephen. I hope it's Not super awful, but only time will tell. I have a feeling that it's not going to be great for a lot of people. So it really is shit, man. We're just going to sit here and wait.
Yeah, yeah. When I was in Paris, it was cool talking to people from Europe, because it's just crazy how just living in the United States, it is obviously very different worlds and economies. But yeah, there's much more we could talk about that. But let's keep chugging on if that's cool.
Yeah, dude, let's get into it.
Cool, cool. So, Alec, you mentioned you're going to be talking about xMoney, both fiat and crypto. The topic I'm bringing up first will be the xExchange, which we've already, kind of talked about here and there. So I don't know, like, do you want to go? Would you mind going first, talking about xMoney?
Yeah, dude, I'd be happy to. So, Utrust, what was formerly known as Utrust and formerly known as TwistPay are teaming up to be xMoney. So xMoney crypto will be Utrust. xMoney fiat will be TwistPay. So what TwistPay is, it is a fully regulated and they are also principal members of Visa and MasterCard in an e-money licensed institution that can be licensed, it is licensed all across Europe. And then xMoney Crypto, of course, is the Utrust that everyone knows and loves, and they will continue to still push on in the Utrust ecosystem, but just with a different name. So, a question on a lot of people's minds will probably be, it's called xMoney now. Does that mean Utrust and TwistPay are like this? No, they're not. They're two still teams that function on their own and, are working to achieve their own mission. Of course, Utrust will continue to focus on those merchant payments, but they're really going to try to build the bridge to grow the bridge from real life to these digital assets. A big part of that is that you're going to get into it more, but the xPortal app is going to be hosting a lot of these xMoney things. So, of course, and even answered on the Utrust website, there's going to be a card, people. A card is coming. You heard that here. A card will be coming to the MultiversX ecosystem, and that will all be based through the xPortal, which will house your crypto and fiat payments together on one app. What's going to happen to UTK? Nothing. UTK is going to stay the same thing. Like I said, their commitment to merchant and businesses will always remain the same. They're just going to be a part of a bigger brand and a bigger ecosystem. And a lot of you are probably wondering, when can we expect for this rebrand to take effect? Late January are when things are going to start happening. The token itself will always remain UTK. That itself is not going to change. The tokenomics are not going to change there. The UTK token will stay prevalent. And then we're going to have xMoney Crypto and xMoney Fiat working together to help onboard those next billion people into the digital asset ecosystem. Not only do we have the crypto payment side, but we have the traditional fiat side. And I think those two things combined together are truly what's going to make this powerful. Because of TwistPay being this e-money licensed platform, they can really expand here, especially in Europe. So it's going to be something really big and something we can all be excited for. And it'll host itself on the xPortal app, which is your topic, Stephen. Do you have any questions that I can help answer for you about this xMoney stuff?
Yeah, let me think. I mean, altogether, the xMoney, it seems like one of these things that was announced, of course, at X Day.
Yeah.
And it's one of those products that I think we're still going to have to kind of wait to see it kind of like formulate. That TwistPay has been known now, I mean, for well over a year, ever since it was acquired. So I think there have been a lot of questions around, what is this all going to look like? So I guess, yeah, I mean, just a question for you from a conversational standpoint is if you do think that xMoney will essentially find a specific kind of spot in the puzzle within xPortal, or if you think that together xMoney will find ways to kind of separate itself. I mean, obviously it's still together. It's xMoney, but is it going to be layered into xPortal, or is it going to find different ways of kind of manifesting itself in the process?
I believe it's going to be fully layered into the xPortal. When I look at it here, they describe it as their role in building the bridge between physical and digital worlds will be crucial. So I think it's meant to be like this seamless part of the xPortal. Here I have something here. So that being said, xPortal is going to blow all other wallets out of the water. It will be home of your avatar and the place where you'll be able to handle your entire financial life, crypto and fiat. So I think that's the whole goal here, is it's meant to be this super app to where I were to open, I don't know, think about some other financial app that exists, but you're able to have your fiat funds safely sitting there on a non-custodial wallet right next to your crypto funds that are safely sitting there on a non-custodial wallet. I really think this is meant to be a replacement for the bank. This is a bank replacer, and the xPortal is going to seamlessly integrate xMoney into it. Just think of it as another tab on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, like, I mean, I can hop into LKMEX after the fact, because I think that the conversation is far too related to jump around the conversation. So, I mean, I'll just we'll wrap this into one conversation because it obviously includes the xPortal app.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, yeah, xPortal, as I was going to share, it's like, yeah, the whole idea of MultiversX rebranding. There's like a short video. I guess I'll share it below. But it's just a short video they've shared with us at X Day and later uploaded. But yeah, they're just trying to push on this whole idea that the metaverse came along and it's this buzzword, and it's probably miscontorted to be maybe just like this place for games or the place for worlds or an NFT museum. But then of course, it's funny because like Alec, as you and I have chatted on many occasions, like metaverse is cool and I'm here to learn more about it, but like I like the physical world. And it's almost like, maybe the whole team is just basing MultiversX off of podcast Elrond discussion.
That would be incredible.
Yeah, I mean, but it is, I think that's the reason that I think that I like the rebrand, is because like it's not like they just aped into the metaverse. They kind of created this different word, multiverse rather than metaverse. And yeah, so xMoney, Fiat and Crypto, it was pretty fun to watch the presentation on the xPortal application. It was given by one of the newest team members recently announced before X Day, Sergio, Beris. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly. But I actually shook hands with and got to chat with him just a little bit at X Day, and gave him a business card. So I think it would be really, really awesome to get Sergio on the podcast Elrond. He is the person who gave the presentation for xPortal on stage at X Day. Really funny guy, super easy to chit chat with. But yeah, so as you even alluded there, the home of the avatar is what was kind of talked about for this xPortal. But at the very, very top, xPortal was introduced as a portal to the metaverse. And xPortal really seems to be establishing itself as, just that exactly. Like, it's a portal, but it's almost like a hub, like it's like, imagine us like sitting in a coffee shop and there's like, a physical portal on the wall. It's like, some people want to stay in the hub and maybe chit chat with real people and drink, coffee, etc. And then, there it is. It's right there, the actual portal to the metaverse. Yeah, just to kind of encapsulate what Sergio said at X Day, was that the main idea, the main mission of this new xPortal application, primarily they wanted to ensure that the ease of use was maintained. And I remember that was a kind of a common conversation people discussed with, what's Maillard, the application 2.0 going to look like? Hopefully they don't overcomplicate it. So I thought it was pretty cool to see Sergio mess with the user interface live on the stage up there, because it's funny. It's like, oh, like that does. I mean, you can see how Get Maillard did kind of lead to xPortal. But yeah, some of the biggest features I think of xPortal were seamlessly integrated, and a lot of people are going to be happy to have these features right on the application. It's going to be, just like everything finance, and of course this portal to the I almost called it the multiverse, but the metaverse. So of course you'll have your classic wallet where you can see all of the assets you own, but a new tab called Track will show you an overall portfolio of your ESDTs. Maybe you'll have an opportunity to import other data of different crypto tokens. But of course, you'll have watch lists that kind of influence your whole tracking of the market. But specifically, I think it's extremely exciting that on xPortal itself, you will be able to swap assets. So xPortal is becoming an onboarding and offboarding means. It truly is this portal to the metaverse. And this coincides directly with what you were just sharing about xMoney, Utrust being the crypto version, and then TwistPay kind of being that regulated e-money licensure that allows for fiat to be integrated. So I think it's really spectacular that Get Maillard or xPortal is going to continue to have really great functionality that we know and love from Get Maillard, the Maillard app right now. But on top of that, you'll be able to swap assets. You'll be able to top up your debit card, which there will be like a physical version for a wallet, but there's also a digital version. So you'll be able to top up your card straight from the app, buy eGold and MEX and all other ESDTs straight from the app. And then also too, there's a tab that will allow you to use functionality of the DEX. You won't need to go on to the Chrome browser anymore, and then go through this process of using the Maillard app and signing transactions, going back and forth. You'll be able to go straight into xExchange from the xPortal application.
Nice.
And it sounds like as he was displaying it for us on the stage, it either lagged or maybe it was just a beta version, but he was able to compound rewards and farm on the DEX straight from xPortal. Again, I think that this just really seeks to fulfill this mission. I keep hearing over and over again, and I think it's only going to continue to be discussed, is just like this idea of we need to bring products to the world that leverage blockchain without people realizing it. And even just before this chat, I was watching some YouTube, and just naturally the algorithm started playing back our interview with Sonia and Nuno from Utrust. And I remembered this a little bit ago, just like Nuno is very passionate about making payments is just data, and it should be as easy and seamless as sending a message on WhatsApp or any messaging application. So it's absolutely no surprise that this xPortal will also serve as this social hub. You'll be able to send messages directly with users. There's a gamification element, so if you go into the modules and you learn or contribute, you'll earn some degree of EXP, which is not a token or anything. but you'll be able to kind of compete and kind of maybe not dive deep into the metaverse, but still using like your avatar in the xPortal app, you'll be able to kind of engage very indirectly with the idea of what xPortal is kind of becoming as this proponent of bridging and meshing, the synergy of real physical world with a digital world. That was probably a bit obvious of a question that I asked, but I still enjoyed the conversation as you discussed about xMoney and Utrust and TwistPay coming together for xMoney. And initially it's like I expected, each of these other of the 10x apps will have their own product, but xMoney is kind of really like a behind the scenes player that's making the fiat and crypto cohesion really possible. That's how it feels like to me.
And while you mention xMoney, I also want to correct myself. xMoney is wallet agnostic, and they claim it will always be. So you will not actually have to use xPortal to use xMoney. So xMoney will continue to be wallet agnostic and something you could use across the crypto sphere, which is pretty awesome. And I also want to mention how you were talking about Elrond trying to, create this multiverse, MultiversX, rebranding themselves as this kind of metaverse type deal. And there's this important quote I found from a Utrust blog, which I think helps encapsulate that. MultiversX's role is not just to create its own metaverse, a pale and misshapen version of our own, limited in imagination and scope. Other companies are doing this, but not us. The role of MultiversX is to bridge the gap between the physical and the digital, allowing you and everyone else to create their own worlds. And I think that's super important. We're not out here trying to tackle, the multi-billion-dollar hole that is the metaverse. Facebook can attest to that. But we're here to build that bridge to help get people over there, which I think is so much more important than designing the actual world itself.
Yeah, and I think that was a great piece to share there. That quote was great. And like that truly is the kind of the message that onboarded me or got me aboard this whole rebrand to MultiversX. Because initially it was just like, all right, I guess Elrond Network is out, gotta kind of reformulate everything. Yeah, dude, just like this idea of, and it kept being like something that they stated, just this intersection between worlds and expanding across all worlds. And specifically, Benjamin in his, I think this was in the introduction before Sergio really talked about the xPortal, but Benjamin just talking about how xPortal will, it'll be this bridge to the metaverse, but specifically, like if we can build a compelling, easy to use product, on a scalable protocol such that Elrond Layer 1 is, it's like, it sounds like he's really trying to send this message. These are new ideas, these are new worlds, and it's like only a matter of time, as well as it's important for us to kind of like send a signal for people to realize that there is a market here, because it seems like Benjamin is really confident that xPortal will onboard companies, businesses that will be able to leverage the MyR application. And then, something else that does actually kind of refer more to xExchange, but some groundbreaking elements such as the sharding architecture, and people will be able to have their own shard, and that's pretty cool to see that people will have they'll be able to leverage the Elrond technology layer 1, but it doesn't need to be on this public transparent blockchain, for some of those use cases that do require a little bit more just protection and security. Just this bridging of worlds and creating a place where Web 2 companies can actually be like, holy cow, like this is already built and this is super easy to implement. And I think that that will be probably the most successful form of kind of adoption that we see out of all of this.
And speaking of adoption and bridging of worlds, I think that's a really good segue into what my minor topic is, and that's the Coinbase listing, bro.
Yeah.
Even Benjamin here in the tweet where he first mentions it, after years of focus and methodical effort, MultiversX, previously Elrond Network, is about to tap into the largest market in the world. Woo! All right. You see those questions that always say, when Coinbase, when Coinbase. Yeah. It's fucking now, man.
It finally happened.
Yes.
I lost hope. I didn't expect it to ever happen. I felt like Coinbase was like, oh, we see what Elrond is doing over there, and we don't want to we don't want to concede. But it's like, all right, sweet. Like, that's not the case. There's not like this conspiracy going on. Like, things are starting to move.
Yeah, it's finally starting to move, and this was announced November 16th. So what? That's 2 days ago.
Yeah.
I think this
fresh off the press.
Yes, sir. For all of our U.S. people watching us, guys, this is a big deal, man. I know you all have heard of the Coinbase effect, which is when new listings happen on Coinbase. Usually, it really bolsters its name out there because a new listing dropping on Coinbase isn't a small thing. And when these listings would happen in the past, the Coinbase effect was this ridiculous pump that would come with it. Now, I'm not saying to expect a pump out of this. We are in a bear market after all. We need to have rational expectations here. I'm not saying there's going to be a pump, but I'm just saying that the MultiversX name, it's getting out there. And I alluded to this earlier, the name change to MultiversX. Maybe it was a really good strategic move for the team to make, because you got to think of those keywords, those buzzwords. I mean, you got coins like a fucking dog coin, bro. It is super popular. So it really sometimes does boil down to the name. And
for sure,
when you start to move over into the U.S. market, people are going to be like, that elf coin. Nah, bro, it's that multiverse coin, dude. It's a different name.
Yeah,
it's a different connotation that gets brought along with it. So I just want
different category of excellence.
Yes, exactly, man. And I hope that name can help bolster that. And the fact is that we're one of the only blockchains out there that can even run at this TPS that we run at, man. It's truly insane. And I'm very excited for this listing.
Yeah. I especially like what the positive direction of the rebranding will bring. Obviously, the Coinbase listing is awesome. Whether or not we get, this huge pump, it's like, okay, finally, now at least, maybe because some people see the Coinbase effect as really just like, oh, well, if Coinbase is thumbs up on it, then I can be too. So they almost see it as like this form of like green lighting. But also too, on the other side of that, the downside of if Elrond didn't rebrand to MultiversX, like I could definitely be better onboarding people in real life, but I'm hesitant just because it gets such a bad rep, and I don't want to be the result or the reason that anybody gets hurt financially. Nonetheless, anytime that I would talk about Elrond, like it was pretty comical how like pretty consistently the response was a question about Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
or maybe this is I don't know, it's just like you say the name Elrond, and I'm not into that lore or whatever, but clearly people are interested in hearing about Elrond whenever or Lord of the Rings when you say Elrond.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's another connotation that exists with it, and that's L. Ron Hubbard, the creator of Scientology. Right? Yeah, so I think it was a good move.
So altogether, I mean, I'm genuinely happy that Alec, you're on board with the name change. I think everybody, whether you like it or not, you'll have to kind of get on board. But the Coinbase listing, I'm really excited about, just from a standpoint of, as I mentioned, that kind of green lighting, such as before. Just how if Coinbase is on board, then maybe that will give the push of people to actually consider Elrond or MultiversX as something legitimate, even though, of course, as we know, it has been legitimate, and it's only going to get, multiple folds better, completely revolutionized with the whole to the power of X concept. But yeah, anything else you want to say about the Coinbase listing?
No, sir. Just that I'm excited for it.
Hell yeah. Cool. So just as we're closing here, I at least want to just give a quick rundown of the locked MEX tokenomics changes. There's stuff on my Twitter. I posted a kind of a background of DeFi, the Multiverse exchange, and then, the Multiverse change, and then I talk more about the X token. Dang it, I'm really botching this. The MEX token, not the X token. But yeah, so there's more information that we still kind of need to learn. But I would say some of the biggest changes, I mean, it's complicated if you get into it, but really it can be boiled down quite simply that, locked MEX is a token to incentivize people providing liquidity to MyR exchange. So initially it was locked because the team designed it to align the long-term view of the DEX with those who are, of course, bootstrapping it, providing liquidity. So yeah, there's just been this huge issue of a misalignment between the growth trajectory of decentralized exchanges and the value capture mechanism of the native token, which of course, as we know, is MEX. So a year ago today, MyR DEX was just about to launch, and we quickly learned that locked MEX was not bound to somebody's wallet. You could move it around. It was a tradable asset. So that's one of the first changes of locked MEX, is that once these changes go live, there will be some whitelisted processes, but for the most part, in general, LKMEX, locked MEX, will not be movable in the same way that it was. So the third-party apps that we already mentioned are going to be shut down. Locked MEX will be bound to a user's account. It cannot be transferred from the account that initially farmed it. And then the idea of the locking mechanisms that we're familiar with locked MEX, which are as soon as it's farmed, there's a schedule bound to the locked MEX token for a year. Unlocked on that schedule. So the team has implemented what's called energy. So essentially, starting from ground one, the entry point and a utility of the MEX token will be the benefit provided from the locked MEX token. Once these exchanges are gone, and this is important, once these exchanges are gone, the only way to locked MEX will be what I thought it was always going to be, which is either farming it or buying it, rather than buying it on these third-party exchanges. But that's soon to be gone, and at that point, technically speaking, the price of locked MEX will really truly become more closely tied with the price of the MEX token. If people want more locked MEX and therefore more energy, they'll have to first buy MEX token, and then they will lock it, and then they'll turn it into locked MEX, and then they will charge that locked MEX. So kind of it starts as MEX, and then people sign a smart contract. It sounds that they will lock it. Once they lock it, it will be locked MEX, but it will have zero energy. So at that point, they can unlock it, they can lock it, and I don't believe that there will be any fees since it's already at zero. It's already completely discharged. So for each day, the locked MEX will gain one energy point, or one energy, and you can lock it for 1, 2, or 4 years, and this will just very straightforwardly, this will put a multiplier in the form of energy on the locked MEX, and the energy is, as I mentioned, by the day. So if you elect to lock for a year, your locked MEX will have 360, not 365, but 360 days of discharge, and 4 years, of course, will be, I think, 1440, 360 times 4. And so the whole idea, I mean, it's essentially this multiplier, but energy really is the key. Energy is going to be the variable that impacts the boosting rewards on metastaking. It will impact how much you will earn from meta bonding and MEX emissions, which are two huge points as well, that just by holding locked MEX, no longer must you stake your locked MEX in the farm or stake it in meta bonding. It's not one or the other anymore. Just by owning locked MEX, you will automatically earn locked MEX emissions, and you will automatically earn 100% of meta bonding rewards.
That's a welcome change.
eGold stakers are no longer included in meta bonding rewards, and both of those aspects, which are passive automatic, are all solely dependent on how much energy your LKMEX has. So you don't have to choose to lock all of it. You can, select how many locked MEX you want to put with how much energy. But if you want to maximize your rewards, the energy aspect will need to be, sufficient. Will need to be higher. So other than that, I mean, that I feel like those are the main points, especially in just wrapping this up in a relatively short end to the long conversation here. So LKMEX holders will automatically earn those incomes, but the other aspect, which is important to hit, is the fees pool, which will kind of provide further passive income. Every trade on the DEX will now take 0.1% of every trade, and half of that will go to the fees pool, and half of that fee will be completely burned. So half of that going into this fees pool. Another element that will add LKMEX to the fees pool will come in the form of discharging. So every farming rewards on the DEX, I'm pretty sure this is correct. Every farming reward on the DEX will now be LKMEX in with full energy. So you receive LKMEX, it's going to be fully charged. If you want to sell it, as we know, you can't transfer it and sell it on these LKMEX exchanges anymore. So if you earn LKMEX rewards, it will be locked for 4 years. And if you want to liquidate it to eGold, you will have to discharge it. And there's a spectrum of discharge and how many fees are taken. I don't want to get into it now just because it's a lot of numbers. So in order for people now to exit the LKMEX token, if they want to just take the money and run, they will first have to kind of pay this toll on the exit, of which will the more energy the LKMEX has, the more fees will be taken out, and half of those fees will be burned, and half of those fees will go to these fees pool of LKMEX owners.
And it's upwards of 80% fee.
Yeah. Yeah, for 1 year, it's going to be 50% of the value, and then as the time increases, it is as much as 80%. But it seems to be relatively fair. I mean, at this point, it really truly is aligning liquidity providers who see and are here for the long-term vision of the DEX. So maybe people will see that really as a deterrent for the smaller fish not to earn locked MEX and find other means. So on top of that, just the final thing I'll mention before wrapping up, and again, there's a long article that I wrote on Twitter. But lastly, and I think most importantly, MEX emissions and supply are finally going to be capped as soon as DEX 2.0, xExchange, MEX 2.0, whatever you want to call it. The second that this goes live, MEX emissions will fall from around 1 million MEX per block to 350,000. So the amount of MEX that will be available to be sold only on MyR exchange, again, because it's non-transferable, will be reduced in hugely. The selling pressure will be reduced, not by 65%, but there will be 65% locked MEX out there in the world for sellers to sell if they so choose. And that's set to come to zero emissions by year 8. So on top of that, emissions are about to fall by 65%. And then from the fees pool, the discharging fees, in addition to, the continuation of the fee taken out and burned from every transaction on the DEX, I think that all of these elements are really coming together to create a truly compelling value proposition for MEX to start to establish a sideways trajectory in terms of price. And being bound with eGold, my expectation for eGold is to grow. And with that, if MEX versus eGold, if MEX can start to find this solid ground and not continue to bleed day after day, if and when MEX can start to turn around, it will turn all of the naysayers to just the biggest fans, the biggest proponents. I guess very, very, very lastly, again, again, governance you mentioned was important to you at the very beginning. There will be the very first community vote coming early December. And again, that governance is all, once again, it points back to the amount of energy a user has. So the size of the battery, how many LKMEX you have, and the charge of the battery, how much energy you've put into the LKMEX. So again, if you want to read more, reach out on Twitter, check out some of the threads that myself and many others have made. Huge shout out to the community, all the excitement surrounding this. But I'll also put a link to the actual xExchange 2.0 document they shared. Lots of good information there, and I think that it's really important to learn as much as each of us can, so that we kind of know how and where to position ourselves as soon as all of this goes live.
Thanks for sharing that with us, Stephen. I think, the MEX 2.0 tokenomics were definitely something people have been looking forward to for a long time, for definitely longer than 1 to 2 weeks. But we are here on the other side, and I know maybe this isn't what some people are looking for. Maybe it's exactly what you were looking for, but it's definitely an improvement from what we had in the past. So I'm definitely interested to see how this is going to play out. I don't know if I'm going to be locking up my LKMEX for 4 years. Holy shit. I do want some liquidity in that stuff that I earned. I earned that stuff at the very beginning, and I'd like to maybe play with some of it. So that's just some my thoughts, but I'm excited to see the change. I'm excited to see the new UX and UI when things start to drop.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe it would be worth it to put something out there on the channel or just on the internet, a video that does kind of take kind of a deeper dive into all of this. Because there's a lot that I want to say and could say, but our conversation has been a good one, but we're coming to an end here. Man, I'm excited about the new exchange. Not only LKMEX has changed, but MEX is now non-transferable, rather LKMEX. So a lot of energy, no pun intended per se, a lot of energy, a lot of focus is now being recollected, brought back in and focused to making activities on the DEX. And I think that that's the biggest key. And then this massive list of LKMEX features really bolster the long-term view. It really just all comes down to, what will the numbers really be, once all of this starts to go live. But aside from that, xExchange is going to get a massive, not just a facelift, but the entire user interface is going to change. It's xChange now, xExchange. So I'm also really excited just to freaking poke around all over the new interface and dive deeper into energy and see what sort of opportunities present themselves.
Yeah, dude, there are a lot of exciting things definitely coming in the future, and we're here to cover it on Podcast Elrond, baby.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, man. So on the horizon, things that we're looking out, things we're waiting. Really at this point, all I can really see is all right, we got X Day behind us. We've got a lot of stuff going on, but on the horizon, maybe I need to relook at the formal roadmap. But as far as I'm concerned, Benjamin and Serge, you also mentioned that the xPortal app, they're working hard to get that released in Q1. They even mentioned January, but I'm very loose with my expectations. So Q1, we'll have the MyR card and that's a MasterCard kind of partnership there. So Q1 for that. xExchange just around the corner. xSpotlight, which is the NFT marketplace as well. Benjamin just talks about all of these things as, week by week we'll introduce new stuff, and this will kind of uplift the entire ecosystem. And especially, just capping that with the Coinbase effect, people are going to start to notice MultiversX. What the hell? People may not realize that it was a rebrand until they really look into it. So all of a sudden they'll just see MultiverseX is a top 40, top 30 coin and be like, what the hell is this about? So obviously I'm bullish about that, bullish on all of these features. And I guess I'm looking forward to the next episode, but I'm very content with what was released at X Day, and I'm really happy to see progress already being made, and there's going to be several things continue to pump out in the pipeline.
Yeah, man, I think we're going to have a lot of amazing episodes coming up because the team has really set it up for us to cover quite a few amazing or new things that they're dropping. And so stay along with us, guys. We'll be covering it as it happens. So thank you for all the support you've given us so far. And we're just happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been an awesome year working together, Alec, through thick and thin. Here we are shooting episode 18. So yeah, totally leave us a comment down below, hit the like button, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and follow us on all of our social medias in the description below. We really love the support. And Alec and I are just going to keep on doing what we do best. And we're excited to share all of this with you as it comes out.
Well, it sounds like that's a wrap, Stephen, yeah?
Yes, sir. It's a wrap and a half.
Awesome. Awesome, man. Well, it's been an amazing episode. And of course, thanks for the support, guys. And we'll see you on the next one.
Peace out, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, peace out, guys.